Welcome into America's Retirement Headquarters, home of the Retirement Guys Formula and America's Medicare Associates. Securities offered through Peak Brokerage Services, LLC. Advisory services offered through the Retirement Guys Formula, a registered investment advisor. America's Retirement Headquarters, America's Medicare Associates, and the Retirement Guys Formula are separate and independent entities from Peak Brokerage Services, LLC. Thanks for joining us today here on America's Retirement Headquarters, home of the Retirement Guys Formula and America's Medicare Associates with Nolan Baker and Scott Kirshner. 419-794-3030 is the number. It's 419-794-3030 and online, americasretirementheadquarters.com. On today's show, we're going to talk about the difference in investing in the retirement red zone versus in the working days. And also we're going to speak with H.O.O.V.E.S, a local organization that uses rescue horses to rescue veterans. But before we jump into the show, let me check in. Nolan, Scott, glad to be with you. Happy weekend to you. How are you?
Oh, fantastic. We're doing great here. Listeners, look forward to the H.O.O.V.E.S. They do a fantastic job out there. Nolan, we had the pleasure of, he took the team out there for a little team building, and it was fantastic. So I'm anxious to hear what she has to say as well. Had a great week. As you all know, I hope you all know, I did a little guest spot on Fred Lefevre's show. Had a great time with Fred and was able to help him out with his Medicare issues that he had, and it's been good.
Yes, it's great. Just enjoying a little bit of golf season, trying to get some boating in, and enjoying the weather.
Enjoying this weather while we still have it, because you never really know when the summer is going to come to an abrupt end, but making the most of it, and we're going to make the most of the show here. Let's go ahead and dive right in. Kiplinger says one of the biggest mistakes people make when they reach the so-called retirement red zone, those years leading up to retirement, is that they keep investing the same way they did when they were young. In other words, everything still in stocks. Is that a valid criticism, or do we still need to be kind of reliant, kind of heavy in stocks?
I think it's a very accurate point in the fact that, the mind shift needs to occur. If you think about it, people are saving and investing into the market. So when you're young and you're accumulating money, you're doing something called dollar cost averaging. So, whether the market's up or down doesn't have necessarily a big impact on somebody saving and accumulating the dollars. In fact, when the market goes down, those people can buy more shares for their money. But ultimately, when you move into retirement time, it's kind of like getting off the mountain. What a lot of people don't realize is that more people die coming down Mount Everest than going up. And the same is true with, retirement time. A little bit of trouble on the way down can be a disaster for a retiree. And it's something that, we've built what is called the independent income system. And it's our methodology that we've been talking about for 20 plus years on what the philosophy is. And I think now is probably more important than ever for folks that are close to or in retirement time to reevaluate, are they properly positioned for what could be coming ahead? You go over to our YouTube channel, type in America's Retirement Headquarters, look at the independent income system. But, what we do is we want retirees to take a look at their money in different time frames. So you want to have a bucket of money really for the first, let's say, 5 years of retirement. Within the next 5 years, then you also want to identify what are the greatest threats facing a retiree today. And, for me, what I would say is there's a big threat over the next 5 years of rising interest rates. And, what that could mean is that investors in bond funds or, target date retirement accounts or variable annuities with certain sub-accounts, interest rates rise, that might not be a good place to have money positioned. Also, I'm extremely excited with how well the market's done for a long time now. But if you think about investing in the market, you buy low, you sell high. The market is at or close to an all-time record high. And I'm not saying the crash is going to happen tomorrow, but I do think that within the next 5 years, that likelihood is extremely elevated. So if you have that retiree, and maybe in the year 2007, who had all of their money in the stock market, and then, of course, we now know what happened in 2008, and that investor, suddenly had their portfolio go down by 50% in value and maybe took a 5 or 10% withdrawal rate to live off of that money, that retiree's in big, big trouble. The second bucket of money that you want to focus on is building up a bucket of money that you have for what's called reliable income. Look, I love stocks, and it is what we do. The challenge about stocks is ultimately they're not always reliable. So again, we don't know what the market's going to do today or tomorrow. But when you're in retirement time, you want to have enough reliable income to cover the majority, if not all, of your requirements of income needs. So when we're talking about that, we're looking at things like optimizing your Social Security benefits, looking at things like pension maximization. Sometimes annuities make sense, or adding in buckets of money ultimately designed to create reliable income. The third fits in line with what we've been talking about in the last couple of shows, is having a bucket of money that's designed to give you a pay raise in the future. Inflation is a threat. It's a reality of today, and it's been something that's been here forever. It's been obviously a hotter topic because inflation is getting quite a bit higher here in the last couple of months. But you want to have a bucket of money that can give you a pay raise in the future so things get more expensive. And then when we find is that investors that tend to be the most successful in the stock market is investors who have time on their side. So if you have a bucket of money designed for the first 5 years, another bucket of money designed to provide reliable income, a third bucket of money designed to, give you a pay raise in the future, then you have time on your side. And that's where looking at stocks can make a lot of sense. I'll draw this out in the office on the whiteboard. And when I put it all together for somebody, oftentimes they say, that's the first time I really understood the purpose of what each account is designed to do. Now, we can build, what we would consider to be the ultimate financial plan. And then oftentimes people ask, okay, now what could blow that up? And Scott, I think that's a big part of where you come into this too, is having the mind shift. Most people in their working years are so used to probably company-sponsored health insurance, and they don't really think too much in regards to, how Medicare works, what the penalties are, how the Affordable Care works, long-term care. Maybe you touch a little bit about that and, think about the mind shift of moving from working to retirement time.
Absolutely. That's a great point, Nolan. And what a lot of people don't take into consideration is the costs involved with long-term care if you go into a nursing home, and the Medicare costs. If you don't have the proper plans put in place, you could set yourself up for some very high out-of-pocket expenses. And where's that money going to come from? You're retired. You don't have a monthly income from an employer anymore. You're relying on your portfolio to pay for these unexpected expenses that would come up from Medicare. But actually, that's what Fred came in for. We talked to him about a few issues that he had, and he's got an employer-sponsored plan, and he had signed up for Medicare because people told him he had to sign up for Medicare, and that's not necessarily the case. So he's paying for dual coverage, so to speak, and he didn't necessarily need to do that. So there's a lot of expenses that are after retirement that you need to be prepared for. Long-term care is a big one. We met with a client earlier this past week, and he came in and he says, I don't want to deplete my funds, my resources, if I have to go into a long-term care facility. He recognized the issue. He knew he needed to put some sort of a plan in place. So we're looking at writing a life insurance product that has a long-term care rider attached to it, and we'll be able to successfully preserve his nest egg if he were to go into a long-term care facility, because he's going to have the resources to pay for it. And folks, I'm telling you, you're looking at long-term care costs that could be anywhere from $6,000 to $9,000 a month. That's a big number. You're looking at $50,000, $60,000 a year if you want to choose what facility to go into. So it's very important to, not blow up your portfolio, and because, hey, let's face it, if you're 70 years old and you lose everything, you don't have the time, like you mentioned earlier, you don't have the time to go back and recover what you lost. So, and that's where you guys come into play. And like Nolan said, on the whiteboard, the first time I saw that, I'm like, oh my gosh, that makes perfect sense. The buckets of money, and I've seen it several times now, and it's great.
It's absolutely eye-opening, and I think it's one of the reasons it's so eye-opening is because people, just don't think about it when they're in the working world.
Right.
And the whole situation is kind of akin to, if you see the train coming down the tracks, the closer the train is to you, the less time you have to get off the tracks and avoid it. If you have time on your side and you know that these will be issues in retirement, there will be market fluctuation, inflation, long-term care possibilities. You can design a plan, and the more time you have on your side, the better you can plan for and prepare for it and get off those tracks, so to speak. But the more time you have on your side, it's not to say it's ever too late to really start planning for it, but the more time you have, the better. All you have to do to get started, pick up the phone, give a call, 419-794-3030, or you can go online, americasretirementheadquarters.com, find out more about the independent income system, and schedule a time to speak with America's Retirement Headquarters. Again, 419-794-3030. Do you know a veteran that's currently facing some challenges? There's a local organization called H.O.O.V.E.S. It's using rescue horses to rescue veterans suffering from PTSD. And Nolan, I know as a veteran and America's Retirement Headquarters being a veteran-owned business, today we're actually joined by Amanda of H.O.O.V.E.S, who's also a veteran and runs H.O.O.V.E.S here locally. And together, the two of you and a small army, no pun intended, volunteers are trying to shout about the need to help veterans suffering from PTSD. So Amanda, welcome to the show. And if you don't mind, let's talk a little bit about how you came into starting this program.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on the show. It's really an honor to be here. And the premise for me starting H.O.O.V.E.S really came from my own experience and my struggles after transitioning out of the military. I joined the military originally to be part of something bigger than myself. And unexpectedly, I found myself not re-enlisting after having two small children during my time in the military. And I think I experienced what so many veterans experience, being part of something with so much purpose, and then just not having that purpose anymore. And even though I was a wife and I was a mother, I still felt this huge piece missing from my life of having impact. And so I found myself in a pretty dark place. Mm-hmm. And we were living on the Air Force Academy at the time, and they had a horse stable. So I started going down to the stable, and somehow they talked me into buying a baby wild Mustang and learning how to train it, which is a pretty unconventional way to heal. But, it really worked. And there was a time in my life that was very dark, and this horse was what pulled me out of it, gave me purpose again, taught me through nonverbal cues really how to have confidence, how to communicate, and really changed the whole direction of my life. And this was back in 2004. So fast forward to 2006, I moved back to Ohio, talked my dad into going into business. And funny, being on a financial show, they say, what's the quickest way to make $1 million on a horse farm? Start with $2 million. But at the time, it seemed like a great idea. And it really was the driver behind H.O.O.V.E.S today. But my dad and I went into business with this farm. And because of my personal experience and the healing I had experienced, I wanted to be able to give that back to other veterans because it really did save my life. And so here we are 11 years later, and H.O.O.V.E.S is going strong. Yeah,
it's going incredible. This year, I think we've got roughly 70 veterans who should be able to go through our programs that we have. I really fell in love, quite frankly, with the first time I went out there and, experienced what the farm had to offer. I am a veteran-owned business, served in the United States Marine Corps. And I think what a lot of listeners maybe don't know about me is I also had a brother who served in the Air Force. He got stationed a month before 9/11 at the Pentagon. And, when the Pentagon got attacked, the hero that he was kind of ran in there and put some people in his personal vehicle and rushed him to the hospital and got a medal for his service that day. But I think a lot of the things that happened to him that day and just, in life in general, ended up overwhelming him. And unfortunately, a couple of years after that, my brother ended up committing suicide. And for me, it was kind of a taboo subject to talk about, subject of suicide. But the fact is 22 veterans a day still are committing suicide. And so if we can help those veterans and kind of get in front of that, and be able to offer the program that we do through Hooves and just, make a difference in as many lives as possible. That's why we want to shout from the rooftop and tell people all about what a wonderful organization is that we have right here in Northwest Ohio.
It's absolutely a very important issue to bring attention to. And I have to say, this is certainly a unique way, something I've never heard of before, as a way to address it. Amanda, if you don't mind, can you talk a little bit about what it's like for a veteran that comes and attends one of these retreats?
Absolutely. And I just want to start by saying that I think where the world is today is we're doing a much, much better job of talking about mental health, and that's really inspiring. One of the most notable things about the H.O.O.V.E.S program is right now we have an 88% of the veterans that come through H.O.O.V.E.S report the total elimination of suicidal thoughts.
Oh, wow.
So, sometimes that's hard to share because it just seems so profound, but that's the reporting from the people attending H.O.O.V.E.S. But the veterans gain entry to the program through a 4-day retreat where they come out, they get to connect with other veterans. One of the things that most people say when they get there is, man, I felt like I was the only one feeling this way, and now I'm surrounded by other people who I know are also feeling this way. And that in and of itself brings a comfort that I think you can't get anywhere else. So in the mornings, we do a behavioral-based curriculum that I've put together based on my own healing and the research and education I've had in the last 10 years. So we're learning these real-time tools to process what has happened to us from a biological level and then do the work on the brain to mitigate symptoms and regain control of our nervous system. So we do these revealing exercises through the bookwork, and then we take our observations out to the arena after lunch, and we see what the horses have to say about that. And what's really profound about horses is, as non-predatory herd animals, it's actually a survival instinct for them to mirror the group in which they are in. So if you're in the wild and you're a horse that's standing out from the group, you're going to be lunch. So their survival instinct is actually what brings healing to people when they interact with the horse. So they're going to pick up on a lot of these deep-seated repressions and behaviors, and they're going to start to express those behaviors in front of the group. It's a really nice way to not have to tell your story, but still get results. Because if we look at human behavior, how we do one thing is how we do everything. So the horses will immediately start to reflect these ineffective patterns back to the veterans, and the veterans can come up with real-time solutions to get the horses to cooperate. And if it works on the horse, it will work in their life. And so we then ask them, what did you do that was successful in the arena, and how can you apply that to your life? So that's the programming part. And then every evening we incorporate other types of holistic healing like massage, essential oils, art therapy. We also do some woodworking where each of the veterans gets to make a pen out of wood on a lathe, and they get to take that with them. But what we tell everybody when they come into the program is that the retreat is just the beginning. It's the induction into the family of H.O.O.V.E.S, because I know another thing that many people miss when they leave the military is that brotherhood and that sisterhood. There's not a community in society quite like the one in the military. So we're recreating that community and that support system and that hope for them so that they can continue on the path. And then we mentor them for 1 year. So we come up with a new mission and vision at the retreat, and then we spend the next year learning how to implement that. And then once they make it through that year, they can come back as a mentor, and they can help veterans that then come in the program after that. So the growth is endless. The opportunities to serve are also endless.
Yeah, it's just been amazing just to kind of see the experience and see all the opportunities. And, obviously we do focus on veterans, but it is also something that we're right here within the community. So we do have a variety of different community events that are going on that people can take part of. So whether you're listening today, you're a veteran, maybe mom and dad was a veteran, maybe your child's a veteran. These are all opportunities that you can really kind of get plugged into the different things that we have going on. H.O.O.V.E.S.US is the website, and if you go to the events calendar, you can actually register for some of the upcoming events that we have going on. What we find is a lot of people want to come out and take advantage of different volunteering opportunities. maybe if you touch on a little bit of some of the different opportunities volunteer-wise that, H.O.O.V.E.S has right now.
We have some fantastic volunteer opportunities. So no matter what your interests are, whether it's veterans or animals or nature, there's always a way to serve at H.O.O.V.E.S. So we have our farm care volunteer crew, and they take care of the horses. They do the feeding and anything that involves animal care. We also have our retreat volunteers. So they come and serve food and help do hospitality tasks for our veterans while they're there serving at the farm. We also have a facility volunteer crew. So if you love nature, we've got a community garden, and there's just always things to do around the facility. We also have a community engagement group of volunteers, and so they help us spread the word about H.O.O.V.E.S to the community.
And so every month we do have an orientation, and for the next couple of months, while we still have some warm weather left here in Northwest Ohio, hopefully it lasts for a long time because I'm trying to enjoy as much as I possibly can. But we know what comes up, and there is some opportunities, again, for volunteering. There's also opportunities if you want to find out about the retreats that we have. Again, I encourage you to stop over to the website, H.O.O.V.E.S.US. You can get more information on that. We also have a chili kickoff that'll be coming up. So when the weather does get a little bit colder, stay tuned to the show. We'll give you details and an invite to that. But something else, we do rescue veterans, but also the other part of that is, we use rescue horses. And that is just another area where people can get involved. So how many horses right now are at the farm that you've rescued? And I know we have a new addition just recently that joined us.
We do. We just got a pony mule. His name is Yoda. How fitting. But Yoda experienced quite a bit of trauma, and he came to the program because he was not able to be rehabilitated. And he's been with us for about 2 weeks. And actually, we just had a retreat last week, and the veterans were already out trying to gain trust. And he's come such a long way in only 2 weeks, learning to trust again. But every horse at the H.O.O.V.E.S farm, we have 28 of them, all the way from a 2,500-pound Clydesdale to an 80-pound miniature horse with dwarfism and everything in between. But we definitely have some unique horses with incredible stories. And one of the things that we really talk about at H.O.O.V.E.S is overcoming challenge. And these horses have overcome challenge right along with these veterans. And I think at the end, we reveal the stories of all the horses that the veterans got to work with. And sometimes they're just blown away by how the stories are similar or how they connect with each horse. But they all have an incredible story. They've all overcome something, and now even the horses are giving back.
Yeah, and the new horse that we have, Yoda, I think that's a perfect example. That horse was headed for the slaughterhouse ultimately. And,
he was almost shot because he escaped and no one could catch him, and they were worried about him getting in traffic for the second time.
Yeah. So, there's all the great 28 horses that we have out there. And one of the things that I think a lot of our listeners maybe don't know is that we're 100% funded by donors. So we don't get any government money. All of the money is brought really by a lot of our local residents. And if you're a donor, we appreciate you. If you want to find out about maybe adopting one of the horses, sponsoring maybe some of their food, their care that they need, maybe sponsoring somebody that could go through the program and help saving a life. All that's available for you. Again, just visit us online, H.O.O.V.E.S.US. You can get that information. Of course, you can always call the office too, but we love helping out, again, as a veteran-owned business, and it's really been an honor, Amanda, to work with you and the organization. I look forward to a lot more years together of doing great things and, saving veterans and saving rescue horses.
Well, we sure appreciate you, Nolan. You've really brought a lot to the program, and I also look forward to the future.
It's a wonderful group, not just helping out the horses, not just helping out the veterans, just together. Wonderful group for an amazing cause. H.O.O.V.E.S.US is the website. Amanda, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your story here this week. And guys, as we wrap up, I'm going to leave you with the final word.
Well, I think, this gives you an opportunity, maybe this show, do a little reflecting upon yourself. If you've been blessed in the last year, had some good growth in the market, maybe take this time to see about reaching your hand out to help somebody else and find a cause that's important to you. I believe in this cause. If you do, let's get involved. And if not, help somebody else out. And have a great week. We look forward to seeing you back here next week, same time.
America's Retirement Headquarters is located at 1700 Woodlands Drive in Maumee, Ohio. You can reach them by calling 419-794-3030 or online at americasretirementheadquarters.com. Exposure to ideas and financial vehicles discussed should not be considered investment advice or recommendation to buy or sell any financial vehicle. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. Investments can fluctuate and when redeemed may be worth more or less than when originally invested. Nolan Baker is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency and does not provide legal or tax advice. Please consult with your attorney, accountant, and/or tax advisor for advice concerning your particular circumstances. Annuity guarantees rely solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing insurance company. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance and annuity products offered through Nolan Baker, Ohio Insurance License Number 27787.